The topic of death and literature have always gone hand in hand since the dawn of human manuscripts, but every author deals with the subject in different ways, giving it different meanings and importance.
The approach to death changes from poem to poem, and in the epic poem of Beowulf, the death of the homonymous hero is treated in a very solemn manner, and also seen from the point of view of his people. With his tragic passing away, we can see the desperation and hopelessness of the whole kingdom after losing their strongest king and soldier, and their last goodbye to Beowulf, where they burn all of his belongings, almost like releasing him of a physical connection to our world.
What Beowulf and Lord Rondal differentiate in is the approach they have to death, because the Lord Rondal ballad tells a dramatic event but with a funny outcome. So in this case, differently from Beowulf, the death is not a tragic event, it's seen more as an opportunity. As we can read in the last stanza, there are the lines, "What do you leave to your mother, Lord Rondal, my son? What do you leave to your mother, my handsome young man?" Here the Lord's mother is just worried about the money and the heritage that his son will leave to her. Indeed, while the poor son is dying poisoned by the one that he calls his true love, she is just thinking about her love for objects. Now we are going to treat the second point, that are feelings beyond death. And we can see this aspect in Shakespearean sonnets, where we found love to be above the concept of death. As is shown in the sonnet, "Shall I compare thee?" Shakespeare talks about his love, comparing it to a season, the summer. But then in the third stanza, in the line, "But the eternal summer shall not fade," he says that summer is a season, and it comes to an end. That's why he writes this sonnet, to make his love eternal, as he says in the last two lines, "So long as man can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." So feelings are something that goes beyond death and will last forever.
Just like in Shall I Compare Thee by Shakespeare, also in the Ode to Grecian Urn by Keats, the eternity of feelings through art is the main topic. Even with the death of the whole population, just like we read in the poem when it says, "When old age shall the generation waste," man-made art and beauty will forever exist, overcoming the obstacle of death and setting in stone, in this case clay since it's a Grecian urn, the human sentiments.
Finally, we are going to treat the last point, that is the hypocrisy of death. This aspect is evident in the war poem Suicide in the Trenches, written by Sassoon. The author guides the reader through the process of why this young soldier decided to take his own life, to show how frightful war can be, and the fear of this young boy to die by the hands of his enemies. Also, the poet underlines how damaging war can be to the mind of his fighters, young and sensitive men.
In the previous poems, we've analyzed death as an outcome of courage, the courage of fighting for your country and the courage of opening up to your love, while in this case, it is about giving up and escaping the fight. The young boy chose the easy way around the struggle and took his life as an escapism to the pain, but the end result was still death and the impossibility to come back home. Death comes for all, no matter how much you fight, and that is where the hypocrisy of death lies.
Beowulf is an epic poem whose protagonist is a hero who protected his people from many monsters, like Grendel and his mother. Unfortunately, Beowulf, at the end of the poem, died bravely fighting against a fire-breathing dragon. After the death of the king, Beowulf was remembered through a funeral which all his people took part in.
The concept of memory is evident in Beowulf's funeral, especially in verse 24, where is written, it was the hero's memorial. This topic is emphasized in lines 3 and 4, where his fighting equipment is mentioned. Its function is to remember his deeds, his power and his strength against the enemies. This is a ballad of an unknown author that deals with a nobleman who was poisoned by a witch. In the ballad, there is the dialogue between him and his mother after he came back home.
The topic of memory is different from the epic poem. In fact, Lord Rondel is not remembered like Beowulf because of his deeds, but because he was a noble. Another aspect of this topic is his last will. In fact, his mother asked about this as soon as she discovered that he has been poisoned. So Lord Rondel will be remembered by everyone just for his houses, his lands, his gold and his silver. Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day is one of the sonnets written by William Shakespeare. Another name for this sonnet is Sonnet 18. In this sonnet, the author expresses his thoughts about the relationship between natural and human beauty and time.
This sonnet is directly connected with the topic of memory, because in the last lines it deals with the power of poetry that makes immortal. So, in this case, she will be remembered by everyone even after death. The Ode on a Grecian Urn is a poem written by John Keats in May 1819. This ode celebrates the art as a way to remember someone or something forever.
The most important keyword in this poem is forever. In fact, it is repeated many times in all 5 stanzas. The main idea that the author is trying to express is that the power of the art can make things immortal, so that they can be remembered forever. Suicide in the Trenches is a war poem written by Siegfried Sassoon after the First World War. This poem talks about a young soldier boy who committed suicide during the First World War.
In this case, the relation with the memory is opposite to all the other poems. While in the previous poems the main connection was the memory through deeds, nobility and art, in this case we have the opposite argument, the oblivion. In fact, this young soldier died alone, and, as the poem said, no one spoke of him again.